Hey everyone, welcome back to 996 The Howl. We're about 25, 26 games in. Why not just take a pause and, for me personally, see whether the Arizona Coyotes are meeting my expectations for this season? And yes, only my expectations. I had 5 expectations in my season preview, and now let's see if they're meeting them. Also, I never really, well, we'll get into it here. In 5th place in the Central Division, I never had the expectation that the Coyotes would make the playoffs. They're currently in the wild card position, tied with Nashville. However, Nashville plays Sunday against Montreal. So by the time the Coyotes get into Buffalo Monday night, they will have 2 games in hand on Nashville. They're tied with Nashville right now. So if the Predators beat the Canadiens, which it's probably going to happen, they'll be 2 points above the Coyotes. They're only 1 point above the St. Louis Blues as well. The Coyotes have the best goal differential between the 3 teams of Nashville and St. Louis. The Coyotes are at +9, Nashville's at an even 0, and St. Louis is at a -12. Now, the reason why goal differential is important, it's like a 90% certainty that if a team makes the playoffs, they have a positive goal differential, and the higher it is throughout the season in the green, the most likely they are to make the playoffs. So the fact that the Coyotes are a +9, the teams that they're battling with are way less below them in terms of goal differential. I'll give them a green check mark for that. I know a lot of people want playoffs. They want 4th in the division. They want to solidify their position in the wild card. But where they're at right now is perfect for me. If anything, Nashville passes them. At least the Coyotes are battling for a playoff spot, which would be my expectation for 5th in the Central. There's some other teams biting at their heels. Minnesota might get it going. They fired their coach, but both Alberta teams, Calgary and Edmonton, they're kind of surging right now. And I honestly think the Edmonton Oilers are past that big rough start they had, and they could be battling for a wild card spot in the next 2 weeks. Also, Seattle is underperforming. They've been underperforming the whole season, but any moment now they could turn it around, and they have expectations to be a consistent playoff team. So some underachievers in the Alberta teams in Seattle, but the Coyotes are right in the mix and right where I expected them to be. They got to maintain this. If they start to nosedive and St. Louis and Nashville just pile up the points and increase the gap above the Coyotes, then that would be disappointing for me. Average special teams, I mean, the power play has been on fire since the drop of the puck for this season. They're 7th place in the league at 24.44%. Sometimes, some games, a power play wins them games. Like yesterday, Saturday afternoon against Boston, going 0 for 5 on the power play. That kind of lost them the game, along with all the little mistakes they had. But, you know, getting 1 or 2 power play goals in that Boston game would have brought them to overtime and get a loser point that they would desperately need in terms of standings, and not to just string along regulation losses back to back. For penalty kill, they are average. They're at 14th place in the league at 80.68. It started off really bad, but they've been getting better and better as the season goes along. So I'll give them a green check mark for that as well. Also, some people like to combine power play percentage and penalty kill percentage, and if that equals higher than 100%, then that's a sign of a really good hockey team. So if you do 24 plus 80, that's 104%. So the Coyotes are doing a good job on special teams. Some other areas on the ice they gotta be a bit better at. The third expectation I had was 15 road wins, and I'm sure for every other NHL team, this might seem like the lowest bar ever, but the Coyotes last season only had 7 wins the whole season on the road. This season, they're already at 5 road wins, or 5-6-2 on the road, and they're currently 8-5-0 at home. They're on pace to have 25 wins at home and 15 or 16 wins on the road. So I'll give them a green check mark for that. Honestly, I don't expect them to get more than 15. Honestly, with this expectation, it was just be so much better than you were last year. And the fact that they already have 5 road wins and last year they only had 7, they're pretty much at par with last season, only 26 games in. That meets my expectation. I just had to pick a number and I picked 15. But the fact that they're on pace for 16 bodes well for me. And also the fact that they're on pace for more home wins this season than last season. Last season, Mullet Magic was real. They had 21 wins, 15 regulation losses, and 5 loser points. This season, they're on pace, like I said, for 25 wins. I thought last year's home record would have been unsustainable. I mean, they were a rebuilding team last year, and the fact that they got 21 wins at home was remarkable. And now this season, they're expected to surpass it and on pace to surpass it. So that's also a pretty good mark of where the Coyotes stand. In terms of individual player points, maybe one of my worst expectations, I guess. Cooley, 20 goals. It's not going to happen. He has 3 goals. Right now, he's on pace for about 10 goals, on pace for 44 points. Right now, he has 14 points. To talk about Cooley, I mean, against Boston, he was on the 4th line with O'Brien and Kellerman. That's a miserable line. You can't have that happen. And I'm even surprised Andre Tourney switched up the line so much, putting Zucker with Keller and Schmaltz. The Kerfoot, Zucker, and Carconi line has been on fire the past 6 games. So really surprised he broke up that line. I understand Cooley with Keller and Schmaltz. It wasn't amazing. It seemed like the top line hasn't really had those games where they just take over the game and dominate and they win the game for the team. It's usually the secondary scoring has been helping us out a lot in terms of Krause, Carconi, and Michelli. Zucker's been all right the past couple of games, but Cooley doesn't really fit on the top line. The top line requires a player to go in the dirty areas, go to the front of the net, create space for Keller and Schmaltz on the ice, and draw players to the centerman and to the front of the net to allow Keller and Schmaltz to do their thing. I don't think Cooley was doing it well, but at least they didn't look bad and they weren't losing games because of that. It seemed like Cooley had nowhere to go in the lineup, and it just worked. I mean, a 5-game win streak with Cooley on the top line. So something was working there. Hayden is a ways off. I didn't know he was so, it's going to be 3 weeks more, I think, for Hayden. They showed a picture of him during the Philadelphia game, and his wrist was still in a cast. So it's going to be a long while. They kind of got to figure out who's going to play with Keller and Schmaltz. But to have Cooley with O'Brien and Kellerman just cannot happen. I'm a huge fan of the 11 forwards, 7 defense lineup, but that only works when you have 11 good forwards, which the Coyotes would have if they were healthy. You add McBain and Hayden to that forward group and take out O'Brien and Kellerman. That's a great 11 forwards right there. Right now, they're playing 9 and 7 because, O'Brien and Kellerman aren't really doing much out there. So you're really playing with 9 forwards. So Cooley's got to figure it out. Maybe mesh well with certain teammates. For me, I expected Cooley to be much more smoother and to have a much more quicker decision-making speed. It seems like he's always a half second late in making decisions and making plays. He also seems a bit frantic with the puck. He's not as smooth stick handling or making those high skill plays. He's just a little bit off. He is underwhelming me now, 26 games in. But to be honest, I think he's having a much more better impact in his first stint with the Coyotes than Gunther had with the Coyotes last season. I was underwhelmed with Gunther's 30 games last season, but I'm more impressed, not a lot, by Cooley more than Gunther in Cooley's first 26 games with the Coyotes. Keller's on pace for 79 points. Nothing bad to say about him. If anything, he's been a bit quiet, but still gathering points here and there. And honestly, the loss of Hayden has really took the wind out of the sails of the top line. Schmaltz for 70 points. He's on pace for 63 points. I think Schmaltz and Keller are going to start getting going sooner or later. Like I said, they've been a bit quiet. They're not their normal selves of taking over games, getting 2-3 points almost every game. It's mostly like getting 1 point every game here and there. But I'm not too worried about Keller and Schmaltz. And Hayden, he's injured, so a very unfair expectation and very unfair to be mad at Hayden. He's injured. I expected Hayden, for this expectation, I expected Hayden to start the season the way he finished the season. And the fact that it took him a really long time to get a goal, to get a point, it seemed like deja vu with last season where Hayden took like 30 games to score his first goal and finally start clicking with Keller and Schmaltz. I was really expecting Hayden to start this season where he left off and be a good contributor points-wise and finally just break out as a NHL centerman. So unfortunately that hasn't been happening. People who are unexpectedly raising the bar that I didn't expect to. Obviously, Carcone leading the team in goals is very unexpected. Nowhere did I think this would happen. I'm sure nobody thought this would happen either. Also, Krause, he started off this season a bit quiet, 7 games with no goals, but he's been on fire after those 7 games. He's second place on the team with about 12 goals. But yeah, back to Carcone, I did not even know he had this type of shot in him. To me, it's like I think you just watch Connor Bedard highlights and the way he shoots it and drags it and just releases the puck closer to his feet. It's a very new type of style shot. Austin Matthews is really great at it, but Connor Bedard is starting to make it more mainstream and a lot of players are trying to copy Bedard. Sorry about that. Just didn't expect this type of shot by Carcone. And his shooting percentage is way high. I think it's between like 25 and 30%. Very unsustainable, but hey, the puck keeps going in the net, so you can't really complain about that. So for the 4th expectation I had, I'm not really hitting it, so I'll give it the old X mark there. And finally, so much speculation recently around the Arizona Coyotes and their arena site. I'm not one to talk about speculation. I hate talking about rumors and speculation, but when the team starts talking about it, albeit a bit sly on Twitter, try to make fun of the situation. I know a lot of people really think that's in bad taste, that the team shouldn't really be making jokes about the arena because it's like a actually serious issue, and the fate of the team in Arizona relies all on this. This is the last chance they have. And to make light of it maybe is a bit distasteful, but for me, Twitter isn't real. So whatever, the team can do whatever they want on Twitter. I don't really care or put much stock into Twitter, but I know and I sense other fans take a lot of stock into Twitter and think it's in bad taste. But the fact that the team was starting to talk about it, it makes me have to talk about it. I wasn't going to talk about it if the team never talked about it. I wasn't going to go off just pure speculation on Craig Morgan. But since the team was talking about it, I had to talk about it. But they're on pace. This expectation is being met. They're still on pace. In the summer of 2023, a couple months ago, they were on track. The CEO, Javier Gutierrez, said early 2024, the start of the calendar year. Now it's first quarter 2024. They're going to announce their new plan moving forward, and this will be the final plan and their last-ditch effort to keep the team in Arizona. The speculation, heavy speculation, is Northeast Phoenix, and I think that's pretty much going to be the avenue they take. I think all this smoke and all this fire, it's going to be that location of Northeast Phoenix. It's just about getting the details signed, whether they have to go with it, whether they gain the land through auction or they outright buy it. Doesn't really matter right now. I'm sure in early 2024, the team is going to reveal all the details of what needs to happen. Or maybe in early 2024, the team's like, hey, we bought the land and we're going to start building in June and July, the shovels in the ground. That's the heavy speculation as well. If they do announce this new plan to go forward in January, February, or at the All-Star game, the shovels are not going to be in the ground until June or July, which is a couple months off the original timeline of the Tempe deal. The Tempe deal, if the vote went yes in what was it, May, they would have got shovels, not shovels, they would have had to clean up the dump around July, and that would have taken 6 to 8 months to just clean up the dump and then start digging below and building the arena would have been in early 2024. So they're still on the same timeline because this new site won't require cleaning up a dump, and it'll be cheaper to buy because you don't have to spend millions of dollars of your own money to clean up a site. It's all there. It's desert area. It's ground. There's no dump, no landfill. So for me, they're on track. They've hit no roadblocks that I've seen, and they're teasing that they're going to announce an arena site soon. So I think at the end of the season, my expectation was have the arena site picked, and all signs are pointing to that is going to happen, and we'll know more in 2024. So that's it for me. Thank you for watching. Are they meeting your expectations? If you had expectations for them to be a playoff team, maybe they are, maybe they aren't meeting that expectation. They're still hanging around the wild card spot. But like I said, they're not really playing a type of style hockey where they're going to run away with a playoff spot. It's going to be a battle throughout the end of the season, and I think that was my expectation. Just battle for it. You're always in conversation, not necessarily having a stranglehold on a playoff position. And other teams, I think their rough start to the season, like I said, Calgary and Edmonton, is making the Coyotes look better. But sooner or later, Edmonton's going to be battling with the Coyotes, and you can never count out McDavid. But in terms of the Central Division, I like where the Coyotes are at. Everyone's pretty much meeting my expectation except Winnipeg. I honestly thought Winnipeg would have a rough start to the year and have a rough season. But I said that before Scheifele and Hellebuck signed their long-term extensions and probably solidified the room and other rooms closer together because everyone's on the same page to meet a certain goal. Whereas earlier in the summer, no one knew what the Jets were going to do. Rebuild, sell off, but it's all on paper now that they're going to battle for third in the division, and they look pretty good, to be honest. So that's it for me. Thank you for watching. If you like what you see, spread the word. And as always, thank you for your support.